Okay, so now our x-intercept is what we need to find next. So then I am going to plug in 0 for the y, so 0 equals x squared over x plus 1 times by x plus 1 to get rid of the denominator. Anything times 0 is 0, and we're left with x squared over here. So if you square root that, the square root of 0 is just 0, so then my x-intercept is at 0, 0. So now I want to find the y-intercept. So I plug in 0 for all the x's. So 0 squared over 0 plus 1. 0 over 1, which equals 0. So the y-intercept is also 0, 0. Because at the origin, that's where it touches the x and the y-axis. Okay? So those are the things that you should have gotten when you worked with your partner to get all of the stuff we talked about last night. Now I'm just going to start at 4 because I'm here, and then we'll just work our way backwards on graphing. So then first thing you're going to do is start with all of this stuff and put it on your graph. So there's no horizontal asymptote. Vertical asymptote is at x equals -1. So put in your dashed line there. Now our slant asymptote is x minus 1. So you're just going to graph that like your slope-intercept form. So your b value is -1, so that's your y-intercept. And then slope says to go up 1 over 1. And so I'll do that on both sides. So this is your slant asymptote. So you still want it to be dashed because it is an asymptote. So how you graph your slant asymptotes is just the way you would graph any line. Plot your b value and then do rise over run for your slope. Okay, so those are your asymptotes. There's no holes, so there's no open circles. And then our x-intercept and y-intercept are going to be at 0, 0, so we know that point is going to be plotted. So I've got at least one point. Now, we only have one vertical asymptote, so you need to plot some points on the left side, pick some x values on the left of it, and pick some y or x values on the right of it. So just like kind of what we did before, where you make a table, and my vertical asymptote was at -1, so I'm going to put that in the middle of my table. And then I'm going to pick two numbers smaller than that, so that'd be -2 and -3. And then two numbers bigger than -1, which are at 0 and 1. So this -1 for x is when that was undefined. So now I'm going to plug in these other points, plot them, and then draw in the graph. So if I plug in -3 into all this, so -3 squared is 9, over -3 plus 1 is -2, so that's 9 divided by -2 is -4.5. So this is where your calculator will come in handy, but it can't be graphing calculator, but you can use a scientific to just plug these in. Okay, now I'm going to plug in -2 here. So -2 squared is 4. -2 plus 1 is -1, so then that's -4. So I just picked two numbers that were on this left side, which are smaller than this vertical asymptote at -1, plugged them into the problem to get the y values. Now when we plug in 0, we get 0 over 0 plus 1, which is what our intercept was at 0, 0. Then if I plug in 1, 1 squared is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, so then that gives you 1/2. Okay? So then I'm going to graph these points. So -3, 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And -2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then draw that in. So it's going to be some curve that looks like this, but it can't cross the asymptotes. Okay, so you're just sketching that in. 0, 0, and then 1, and then go up 1/2. So again, this is going to wrap around somehow. You don't have to be super accurate, but it's going to wrap around and then level off at the asymptotes. So it's very similar to what we did on the first day of graphing on Monday, where you pick points on both sides of your vertical asymptote. Okay? So now let's go to number 3. Okay? So these were the answers that we got for all of that information. So let's go ahead and just plot all of this on the graph first. So horizontal asymptote is at y equals 0. Vertical, 1, 2, 3, x equals -3. And no slant. A whole is going to be at 3 1/6, so 1, 2, 3, and then up a 6. So barely off, and you're going to put an open circle there. It cannot be dashed or cannot be shaded in, so it's an open circle at that hole. Doesn't touch the x-intercept, but the y-intercept was at 0 and 1/3, so just up a little bit. Okay. Now, typically, I just have you do 2 values over here. 2 on this side of the vertical asymptote and 2 on this side of the vertical asymptote. So you actually already have that satisfied here. So then you just need to draw curves so that they kind of level out. Make sure you don't put your line through that. So this already has, on the right side of the asymptote, enough points graphed that you don't need to do anymore. If you want to do more, you can. But I only want to see that you have at least 2 on there. Okay? Now I just need to pick 2 numbers that are on this side. So this is at -3, so then I need 2 numbers smaller than that, so I'll just do -4 and -5. Okay, and then remember what we had left over was y equals 1 over x plus 3. After we canceled, because that's what you're supposed to be using. So then when I plug in -5, I'll have 1 over -5 plus 3, so that'll be 1 over -2, so it's -1/2. When I plug in -4, so 1 over -4 plus 3, 1 over -1, which is -1. And then remember it was undefined at -3 when you plug that in. That was 0 for the denominator. So I just need to plot those to get the other curve. So 1, 2, 3, -5, -1/2, and then -4, -1. So then there's your curve for that one. So again, when the directions say I want at least 2 points in each region, the regions are separated by your vertical asymptotes. So this just had 1 vertical asymptote, so you have a right side and a left side that you need to pick some points on. And so this side we already had enough that I could just sketch it in. Here we had to pick a couple on the left, which were smaller. Okay? All right, so let's go on back to number 2. Okay, so on number 2, here were the things that we got. So again, start by graphing these items. Y equals 1 is your horizontal asymptote. There was no vertical, no slant, no holes. The x-intercept was at -1, 0, and also at 1, 0. And then the y-intercept was at 0, -1/3. Okay. Now, to kind of figure out what's going on, I'm going to pick 1 more point on each side. We actually have a good amount, but just so you can kind of see what happens over here, I'm going to pick 1 more x and y or x value on each side. So I'm going to pick at -2, and then I'm going to pick at +2. So we are just kind of making sure that it doesn't like go back down this way or anything. So if I plug in -2 up here, so -2 plus 1, -2 minus 1, all over -2 squared plus 3, oops, minus 1. So that'll be -1 times -3 which is positive 3 when you multiply those. That'll be positive 4 plus 3 is 7, so that's 3/7. And then if I plug in positive 2, I would get 2 plus 1, 2 minus 1, all over 2 squared plus 3. So the bottom is going to be 7 again. 4 plus 3 is 7. This will be positive 3 times positive 1, so that'll also be 3/7. So if I go negative 2, 3/7 will just be a little above, and positive 2 and 3/7. So what's going to happen here is this didn't shoot back down. Here's what your graph is. And make sure it doesn't cross that. Okay? Now you kind of had enough points here to figure that out, but I was just picking one more so you realize it doesn't bounce off here. It does actually level off at your horizontal asymptote. Okay, and then last one, let's look at number 1. Okay, so for number 1, these were the answers that we had. So then let's go ahead and graph all of that information. So y equals 0. Now this one has 2 vertical asymptotes, so negative 4 and positive 2. I can get my dashed lines to work out here, that'd be great. Okay, so this time when we pick points, we have 2 vertical asymptotes, so it has split us into 3 regions. So we'll have to pick a couple points over here, a couple points in the middle, and then a couple points on the very far right side. So this one actually has 3 regions separated by 2 vertical asymptotes. Okay, so then our x-intercept was at -1, 0. And our y-intercept was at 0, -1/8. So we kind of have a good idea here. I'm actually going to pick one more though so you can see what's going on in the middle. So looking here in this region, this vertical asymptote is at -4. This is x equals -4. So then in my table, I need to pick 2 numbers that are smaller than that going this way. So then I'll pick -5 and -6 as choices for this region right here. Okay, so that'll be the first region. Then over here, I've got at -1, and I've got an answer for 0. So then I'm going to go one more this way to see if the graph is going to go down like a parabola or if it'll do more of an S-curve like a cubic function would. So we need to figure that out. So I'm going to go one more point this way so that it would be at -2. So that'll give me an extra point in the middle. And then over here, this vertical asymptote is at x equals 2. So I need to pick 2 x values this way. I'm just going to pick +3 and +4. So that's what I mean when I say I want at least 2 points in each region. So here's a region, here's a region, and here's a region. Okay, so I'm going to plug in -5, and so you can use your scientific calculators for this part. But if I plug -5 up here, I would get -4. And -5 plus 4 is -1. -5 minus 2 is -7. So that'd be -4 over 7, so that's -4/7. I'm going to plug in -6 up here now. So -6 plus 1 is -5. -6 plus 4 is -2. -6 minus 2 is -8. So that would be -5 over +16. Okay, now I'm going to plug in -2. So -2 plus 1 is -1. -2 plus 4 is 2. -2 minus 2 is -4. So that's going to be -1 over -8. So that will be +1/8. Okay, now I'm almost out of time on this video, so then you'll have to click on video number 3 so that we can finish out this problem.